should I start my own business? Should I, look at this product I got. What do you think? And I tell them, okay, you got two paths. You either raise money or you have another job that can support this until you realize whether or not it really is going to be successful. Because otherwise, you're going to, unless you're a genius and you have just the best luck, you're going to stumble. You're going to stumble out of the gate. You're going to lose money. You're going to lose batches. There's just too much learning curve in any new business. So just be prepared for it and know how much you're willing to lose.
Matt, welcome to the podcast. I'm excited to be chatting today. Thanks for being here.
Yeah, likewise, Louis. Thanks for having me on. Excited to talk to you and tell you more about my story.
I'm very excited to get into it. I was excited when we were connected for the opportunity for this conversation. It's a brand that at least I'm familiar with, and I think a lot of people will be as well. Can you give your assessment of, I guess, the penetration of it, right? Because, I saw it in a store, so I'm like, okay, well, I tend to think if I've seen a store, everyone has. But, I've only lived in some parts of the country and I've only gone to some stores. So what's the present day spread of the brand?
Yeah, absolutely. So we, in the industry, you would call it ACV. And it's just a measurement of how much penetration you have, total volume throughout the channel, right? So you basically your supermarkets, so your Kroger, your Publix, your Walmart, those are your mainstream groceries outlets. And so we're in about, with our just pulp-free orange juice, which is our number one selling item, the 52 ounce, we're in probably 45%, 50% of the stores nationwide. So we still have a long ways to go after 25 years, but that still accounts for probably 15,000 plus doors. So it's in a lot. You can find us in Hawaii. You can find us in Alaska, Maine, just about every state, and even down into Puerto Rico. So we've done a lot: mainstream grocery, independent groceries, co-ops, a lot of places, and starting to get into other things like food service, college campuses, convenience stores, drug and mass like CVS. Some of those are harder spaces to get into, take a little bit longer and a different channel with distribution to accomplish. So yeah, that's where we're at, about 45 to 50% with just our pulp-free orange juice.
Wow. You really nailed the four corners there. You went like 1, 2, 3, 4, Alaska, Puerto Rico, Hawaii, Maine. So that's a good way to tell the story. For people who, unlike me, don't obsessively read every label of every product that they purchase, what is, this is orange juice, but it's not just orange juice, and the brand's not exclusively orange juice, but what are the big things that the Uncle Matt's brand does differently from the rest of the juice world, the rest of the CPG world, from a consumer's perspective?
Sure. So, first off, if you just walk to the juice case, right, the refrigerated OJ, you'll see simply Tropicana, Florida's natural. We're organic. So Uncle Matt's organic. It's right there in our name, USDA certified. So that's for those that may not know what organic is, it's less and less that know what organic is. We've done a great job of penetrating, but it's a more natural farming method for growing or producing food. So instead of synthetic fertilizers, pesticides, we'll use more natural alternatives and substitutes. So we'll use cover crops that would grow and then cut back in for our own nitrogen. We'll use compost, seaweed, neem oil. We'll use a lot of mechanical for weeds instead of using a Roundup. So right out of the gate, the biggest thing you'll see is we're USDA certified organic compared to those larger conventional brands. That's the biggest thing that stands out. And then, of course, taste will be naturally a little bit sweeter because of the organic growing methods that result in a little bit sweeter taste in juice.
And why do you think, even after you've achieved the success that you've had, that you are still in a category of your own compared to these other bigger brands when it comes to the organic product, in this category at least?
Organic is not easy to do. Organic's difficult to do. And so those larger brands, they have their own business model. They just have yet to be able to really figure out how to be consistently great in a smaller organic space like we are. And so you have to be more nimble. You have to be willing to, adjust on the fly because the organic is more difficult. So we have to work with a variety of different places, from Florida to Texas to California to Mexico, to get the source of supply and the high quality supply with the growers that we work with.
What are some of those challenges? Obviously, I think it's a fairly lay audience in general when it comes to farming, but at least in terms of people what makes it harder?
Well, First off, there isn't a roadmap. So if you go to, just take, for instance, here in Florida, the University of Florida is our land grant institution, and they're the ones that will do most of the research on how to grow citrus, or how to grow any crop, or even cattle and livestock for that matter. But they don't have a dedicated organic side, right? They're not going to tell you, here's exactly how to do. We've done, decades of research on organic farming methods in Florida. They don't have that. But they have it on conventional. They've got it really dialed in on exactly, how much ammonium nitrate, how much urea, when you should spray what, how much herbicide you should put down, what kind of pesticides, if you have a certain pest, what works well for pesticides and efficacy and all that. So you're going out there, and a lot of times you're doing it yourself, and you don't have that advantage from somebody already having the experience and telling you, how to get there quicker.
I'm very tempted to derail the entire conversation, just nail in immediately on all sorts of things that relates to kind of health certifications and what matters and what doesn't matter and what's over marketed and under marketed in terms of all of the certifications like Heart Healthy or American Heart Association approved, and all of these kind of certifications that are sometimes meaningful, sometimes misleading, and sometimes the outright opposite potentially of what a lot of other people would believe to be true. So maybe we'll save some of those kind of spicier takes for later on in the conversation. But let's get to the kind of abbreviated origin.
Well, can I stop you right there for one? Can I stop you there for 1 second? Because the USDA organic seal, it is one that truly has teeth to it. It's one of the few that you could actually, if you break the law, the United States government can come after you. So they can fine you and even have penalties of incarceration. So they can put you in jail, which a lot of these other seals, they don't have those teeth, right? They're just, an independent not-for-profit that's going to go in and, audit you once a year or once every 2 or 3 years and just, trust that you're doing the right thing and you have integrity. But there's no penalty. You're definitely not going to jail if you break, the Rainforest Alliance or the non-GMO seal. But you definitely have penalties of fines and jail if you break the standards from the USDA organic seal.
And that's exactly the type of line of questioning I was curious about. So the non-GMO one, just to call it one example, that one does not have the same level of penalty. That's interesting.
Oh, yeah. No, you definitely, the non-GMO project's not going to come arrest you if you falsify and put it on there. They may sue you for some kind of damages or something, but you're not going to go to jail. You literally can go to jail for the U.S. because it's fraud, right? If you put on, hey, this is organic, and you're bringing product in that's obviously conventional.
Well, I'm excited to really dig into that here in a few minutes. But let's start, I think, for the people who haven't connected the dots super explicitly, right? The brand is Uncle Matt's. You are Matt. You are the founder. You started this. Take us back through the nexus, the origin. There's, you can give the abbreviated, and we can kind of choose where we want to zone in on. But at least in terms of the very foundations, and I believe that you have family history with this as well. You weren't just kind of, I don't know, like someone in school for software engineering who just really liked orange juice. And then I think there's a bit more of a straight line path, but I'm curious to hear your retelling.
Yeah, there's actually the funny story is I went to college to get out of the citrus business. I wanted to get out of working in the hot groves in the summer, and I thought, there's got to be a better life. So I went to school and got a degree in business with a minor in economics and a specialty in finance. So it started 4 generations ago. My great-grandfather came down to Florida. He was a farmer. He farmed a variety of different crops to survive. One of them was citrus. He did vegetables. He had turpentine, and he also did cattle. He passed along the love for citrus to my granddad, who passed it on to my dad. And, of course, I grew up as a kid working in my dad and grandfather's groves. And they had amassed about 600 acres of citrus here in Lake County, which is about 30 minutes from Disney World. And so in 1983, Christmas Eve 1983, it froze. It got down to 17 to 19 degrees. It killed everything, killed about 30,000 acres in the counties around here, Orange, Seminole, Lake counties. And so a lot of people had to reset. My father stayed. He became a consultant. My grandfather had to move south. They had to sell off all of that 600 acres, which was pretty devastating at very low prices. But they still stayed in citrus, and that was their passion. And they helped convert a lot of other people and help grow citrus for a lot of other people, not necessarily their own anymore. My dad kept about 5 acres in his backyard. And so when I grew up in the business and helping him on some of his consulting clients, taking care of their groves, I was out there planting trees. I was running a tractor. I was helping pick fruit. I did a variety of different things growing up as a kid. And it taught me a lot of valuable lessons of a day's hard work. I was managing a crew at a very young age. So I learned leadership. I learned just to be, accountable and all of those things. But I knew there was going to be something better for me, and it wasn't going to be driving a tractor in an orange grove for the rest of my life. So I went to college, got a degree, and when I got out, the funny thing was I just didn't really have the passion when I was getting job offers to sell business forms or to do software sales, some of those things. And at the same time, one of my father's consulting clients, he had 80 acres of grapefruit, and he was German. And he said, hey, I need somebody to help me because I have friends over in Germany that would love to drink Florida orange juice, and they have bottling plants. And so if you can help me go to the processors in Florida and with your name and your history, convince them to sell us juice that we'll then ship over to Europe, and then we'll resell to these different bottlers up and down throughout Germany. And so that's what we did. So at a ripe age, right out of college I was 22 years old, I started my own business and began as an entrepreneur. We wound up selling millions of dollars and were very successful for quite some time. And we were just selling bulk conventional orange juice and grapefruit juice from Florida over to Europe. We'd ship it to Belgium or to Holland. They would bring it in, and then they would divert it down to the different bottling facilities. And one of those customers in southern Germany, he asked in about 1996, 97, hey, what about organic biologic? I need biologic. And, there's typically Europe starts trends, at least in food, before what you'll find in the U.S. And so organic was further ahead than in the U.S. And I told the gentleman at the time, I said, I don't know what organic is and organic farming, but I'll go back to Florida and I'll find it. And I'll do my best to figure out how to do it for you. And that's what I did. Came back, and in any business, you have your aha moment of like, hey, is there an opportunity here? Do I think I can make money with this? Is there demand for it? And there was no organic Tropicana or Simply or Florida's Natural, any of that at the time. And so I got excited because I thought, geez, I really think there's something to this. Farming organic is better for the planet. And it just struck a nerve within me that, hey, this could be something that could really work. And then I needed to figure out, can we even grow it in Florida? Can we farm organically in Florida? And that's when I sat down with my grandfather and father, the agronomist, and asked them for their opinion on it. My grandfather just chuckled, and he was pretty offended because he said, I was alive before they invented pesticides in the 40s, and we farmed fine without them. We farmed organic basically, and they didn't call it organic back then. So he gave me the confidence. He also had the epiphany at his age. He was probably mid-70s at that time, and said, I have been, wanting to go back to this kind of methodology of farming. Farming with growing cover crops and putting out more compost and really focusing on soil health and tree health, and not focusing on single factor stuff of like, hey, if I have a disease, how do I cure the disease? If I have a pest, how do I get a pesticide to kill that pest? But more holistically, starting with the soil, building a healthy soil that yields a healthy tree, that yields healthy fruit, and it turns its own immune system on better. And so that's the perfect world of organic farming. He had that vision. He saw it back before pesticides were invented. He said a lot of those methods were never disproven. They were merely displaced by new technology that then focused on production and yields per acre and how do you get more boxes and more whatever you're growing per acre, and not necessarily about nutritional value, nutrient density, internal quality, right? And farming organic is less about production and more about the health of the tree, soil, and the internal quality. And so he gave me all kinds of great confidence that, oh man, I can do this. If my dad and granddad think we could actually grow it, and there's this fantastic story about like, no, actually we should be going back to that and we should be growing that way, then that's all I needed at a ripe age of 27. I'm like, this is awesome. Give me that flag and I'll charge to the top of the mountain. And so 25 years later, I still feel like that every day, that I have that organic flag and I'm charging to the top of the mountain to really try and tell consumers about a better way to farm and products that taste better. And so It's been a long, fun journey, and I still feel like I'm just getting started.
That's the best way. It's always day one. How has the literature matured for the health benefits? Because I think at least maybe from my perspective with the context I have, the like earth stuff, for lack of sophisticated way of describing it, is a bit more straightforward to understand. It's like clearly more natural to be in there doing it the way it's kind of always been done and without all this fancy unnatural things. But what has actually been, kind of documented, or has consensus been reached for the person consuming the end product in terms of the benefits or dangers of one way versus another?
Yeah, I mean, if you looked at all the different research, and there's one, the Organic Center, they're funded by the industry. They do quite a bit of research, peer-reviewed, published stuff they put out around health benefits, and then also environmental benefits, and also soil benefits, things like that. So you'll kind of see on average, organic will have more antioxidants. They'll have some more nutrients, so either phytonutrients, antioxidants, all of those things, because the tree is one of two. It's either assimilating more from the roots, because a healthier soil has more like mycorrhizae fungi that naturally grabs more nutrients. It has a nice symmetry with the roots. They can take up more things. So you'll get minor molybdenum, selenium, zinc, boron, some of those things that you won't necessarily get when you're focused on just production, NPK, nitrogen, phosphorus, potassium. And so the conventional guys really are about that and pushing it. And so you'll see more antioxidants. You'll see more nutrient density when you look at the studies. You'll see also things from the soil. You'll see more carbon capture. So when you build a healthy soil, you have higher organic matter. And that organic matter holds water longer. So you need less water. Its water holding capacity is better. It also then has more nutrient in that soil, and it captures carbon. So, big thing with climate change, how do you sequester more carbon? And that's it. It's in, a healthier soil, higher organic matter. And that's one great way to just cut down on carbon is through organic soil and organic regenerative farming. And then not to mention, the whole other side from just pesticide residues, avoiding toxic chemicals. I mean, that one's just kind of a simple no-brainer. If it's got a skull and crossbone, when you're putting it out, if you don't put it out, you're going to reduce your risk of something bad happening. Glyphosate is one. It's a common compound found in Roundup, the weed killer. It's been deemed as cancer causing. You'll see the commercials on for class action lawsuits and stuff like that. We don't use it in organic. We even go further at Uncle Matt's and we get certified glyphosate residue free. You're not allowed to use glyphosate in organic farming. So aside from, not having the chemical risk, you've got nutrition of the soil, you got carbon sequestration, you got more antioxidants. I mean, those are all kind of things that you'll find when you dig into the peer-reviewed published data.
I think I've kind of let you get away with telling the business story without we've told the bright side of the story. What have been some of the moments where there is a big, you've kind of told it where there's a very strong and clear enthusiasm for kind of every new opportunity that's come in. But what are, if any, notable dates and kind of transitionary points where we're basically either stuck here or we need to take this large risk to break it past, to kind of make the meaningful next step? Because I think that's always very interesting to reflect on. We kind of maybe blot them out of memory because they're extraordinarily stressful periods. But to the extent you remember them, are there any that come to mind?
Yeah, I mean, you're basically talking kind of like business plateaus, right? So there's every business can you reach this certain plateau? So you have either more efficiencies, you have either better quality, lower cost, more buying power, all of those things, critical mass, right? In business, you need to hit some critical mass points that can make you have a higher risk to sustain your business and outcome of success. And really, from day one, I chose one of the most difficult products you could possibly try to do, which was a perishable, refrigerated, commodity. If I had to do it over again, I'd be like, oh. it was high priced, right? So going into right at the beginning, I had to run a minimum batch. So I had to run 600 cases, and there's 6 bottles in a case. So I had to sell 3,600 bottles, and if I didn't in a certain amount of time, the date code was like 60 days. So I had 60 days before the product would go bad. But you had to give the retailer at least 40 days. So I would take 2 to 3 weeks I had to ship all of this product. And if I didn't, I knew I was going to eat it. So that right out of the gate was the first plateau. The first business hurdle was, okay, do I have enough customers? So when I make a minimum run, I'm not going bankrupt the next week because I didn't, in 2 or 3 weeks because I didn't sell enough of the product. So I first had to go out and pre-sell it and get enough customers so I believe that, hey, when I run this product and when I put it on the shelf, enough people are going to buy and repeat purchase it that I can get through each time. And I didn't always get through it, but I got through it enough. And there's nothing like the pressure of having that kind of gun to your head every 2 or 3 weeks that really motivates you. If you're lazy, don't become an entrepreneur because you'll go bankrupt pretty quick. You have to hustle and really hustle depending on the product that you choose. And this one was, quite frankly, one of the more difficult ones. Now, on the flip side, it also keeps competition out. If my granddad made the famous quote, you tell you, hey, if it's easy, everybody's going to do it. So every time you're sitting there complaining about how hard this thing is, also look on the bright side. It's going to be even harder for other people to follow you. So that's one key thing in business, that you don't want it to be too easy, because if it's too easy, you're going to have a whole lot of competition. Or you just need to be prepared that you're going to have a whole lot of competition. And so, a little bit of the perishable thing was a moat for my business to be somewhat protected. And then, of course, organic being more expensive. I had to make sure to choose my retail partners wisely, because if you got into accounts that didn't have the right customer base, you were not going to get the velocity. You weren't going to get the turns at the shelf, and that product was going to go out of date on the shelf, and they wouldn't reorder you. And sometimes they bill you back, even more deadly. So that right out of the gate was the very first plateau, and the first point where, this is either going to work or not work, and I'll know pretty soon. We had a family friend that ran the co-packer, and he was very funny because he just said, hey, look, this is a terrible idea. You're going to lose all your money. And do your parents even know what you're doing? And I laughed at him, and I was like, hey, you know what, Tom, you're right. This is probably going to lose some of my money, not all of my money. I'm not betting that I'm going to lose all my money, but what he didn't understand was the passion I had for it, and that I just wanted this to succeed. And I had another business, my import-export business, that was still thriving. And so I could afford to lose some money and invest in this to try and get it started. And so I tell people all the time when they ask me, hey, should I start my own business? Should I, look at this product I got? What do you think? And I tell them, okay, you got 2 paths. You either raise money or you have another job that can support this until you realize whether or not it really is going to be successful. Because otherwise, you're going to, unless you're a genius and you have just the best luck, you're going to stumble. You're going to stumble out of the gate. You're going to lose money. You're going to lose batches. There's just too much learning curve in any new business. So just be prepared for it and know how much you're willing to lose.
What was the ramp up after? So we make it past this first really testy gate, 3,600 bottles. I didn't multiply it out a second time based on the size of the bottles, but a lot of juice. What's the kind of next gate from there? Or really the series of jumps kind of, and we don't need to go stepwise to present day, but.
Yeah. So I had pieced together enough small food co-ops, independent stores, and a local chain called Goodings that had about 13 stores. And that was just barely enough to make my 600 cases before it went out of date. And so I was like, okay, just still building a little. And then I got the call from Publix. Publix had, at the time, I think they probably had almost 1,000 stores. And I was like, holy cow. All right. So I just went from, it was probably in about 300 stores between independents and all that to now 1,000 stores. And so that was just a huge monumental day. It was a very awkward day. One of those that you remember forever, when that buyer calls you. And he called me on 9/11. And I literally had just watched, at our office, I just watched the first tower fall. And I had one employee, and the one employee I'd sent home because she was from New York City and she was profusely crying. She was trying to contact people that may be in the towers that she knew. And I was like, oh my gosh, I was just distraught. Like, please go home. This is terrible. And the buyer calls and like, hi, how you doing, Raul? Hey, Matt, on a really bad day, I'm going to give you some really good news. We are going to bring you into Publix. And I was like, wow, okay. You're right. Really bad day in history, but also a really good day for Uncle Matt's. And that launched me. That was that kind of volume. Then boom, now, you got more scale on purchasing, cartons and shipping. So my freight could, go down. Now we're shipping pallets, multiple pallets instead of just, half a pallet. They actually would come by and pick up, even better. So that was the next big thing, 2001. And then after that, Publix is in the Southeast. Then after that, the next biggie was getting into Kroger. And Kroger was about 2005, 2006. And that took me in another like 2,000 stores, and it took me west, which was great. And then like 2009, I got in Whole Foods nationwide, and that populated me in their number one distributor. And it allowed me to then get into all of the mom and pop independent co-ops that were really our core customer base in the Southeast. That allowed me to get into them nationwide. So a decade of just boom, 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 with one retailer after the next. And it was, I had been calling on those retailers and calling on those retailers. Every year they'll have an annual review. And, I was, calling on them 6 times a year, like, hey, wait for the annual review, buddy. Just keep waiting. We know you're hounding us. I probably should have been arrested for stalking a lot of those buyers. But persistence pays off. Perseverance pays off. I was just not going to be denied. I really felt, and I still do today, that we have a better product. We have a better story. And we're just really passionate about being consistently great. So when you grab a bottle of Uncle Matt's and pop the top, our little tagline is "Love it first sip." We believe you will have that experience every time. And we work really hard to do that for our customers.
It's very exciting. It's an incredible journey with those are very memorable gates. When you think kind of present day, how do you frame the mission? Is it still getting this core organic orange juice and a couple of the other big leaders like grapefruit, et cetera, into from like that 40 to 50% to 100? Do you have other plans besides like how are you thinking about that looking forward?
Yeah. So, the other thing you have to be in business is always nimble, right? And you have to stay relevant, and you have to listen to your customer and track what's happening with them, because they'll tell you if you're willing to listen to your customer, they will lead you into places where you need to innovate and to go. And so for us, it was a natural. While pulp-free orange juice is still our number one SKU, we have since added a good amount of other items, and one was functional benefits. Orange juice is a wonderful base that you can add other functional ingredients to. So when COVID hit, we came up with a product called Ultimate Immune, and we took orange juice and we added elderberry, which is known for fighting colds and flus. We boosted it with 300% vitamin C, so we boosted it even higher, and we added zinc and we added D. So the 3 key things for fighting cold and flu, plus an elderberry, plus orange juice, all of that together was a delicious purple, yummy juice that tasted great. And it's, now become one of our top sellers. But it's a functional blend, right? And people wouldn't have thought about that. But the customer was asking, hey, what else can you do? Orange juice, while we love it, it's what our parents drank. What else you got, buddy? And so from there, we've also come out with an ultimate defense. We added pineapple, orange juice as a base again, pineapple ginger. We boosted it again with vitamin C, 300%. But then we added a probiotic. So gut health is really good. A lot of people talking about, your immune system. A lot of key benefits start from human health from the gut. And so we have a probiotic that we put in at 1 billion CFUs, colony forming units per 8 ounce. And that's where the research and the data come for this particular strand. So there's over 20 clinical trials that show at 1 billion CFUs that it boosts your immune system response, and it also helps with your digestive system as well. So 2 key benefits that we added in to orange juice. You got a nice little zing. We put turmeric in there, turmeric and ginger. The turmeric is anti-inflammatory, which is delicious. So we ground up the whole root of turmeric. You'll see the little spice in there. The probiotics, ginger, turmeric, with orange juice as the base. So those are just some key things. Our lemonades, we got rid of the cane sugar. because it was just too high. People, are trying to eliminate sugar out of their diets. We use a version of stevia from the leaf, extracted from the leaf. It doesn't have the bitter compounds that stevia is known for. This version, you barely can detect that it's even there. So we literally have no sugar added to our lemonades, but they taste great. Mm-hmm. As a dad with 2 kids, I am delighted to take that home and give it to them because it's guilt-free for me as a parent.
Yeah, the enthusiasm for the products is extremely, extremely apparent. I love it. I'm thinking where to take this next. I think it'd be a good time to go back to some of the certification questions and some of these kind of more opinionated, fact or fiction, industry related things. I'll give you one to start out with. Your opinion on raw milk. Do you find that's very popular these days in kind of the online communities I'm in? Kind of a similar wave of this way of doing things has all these benefits that were kind of forgotten. What is your opinion in the seat you're in with the knowledge you have?
Yeah, so I think, it's similar to fresh squeezed orange juice. If you can get it in its raw, most virgin state, I think it's best. We, as an industry, we want to try and take things and make them safer by eliminating any kind of harmful pathogens. And that's why we either heat pasteurize or homogenize in the form of milk. And so it has a longer shelf life. It can go further. But I tell people all the time, hey, if you want the premium, buy fresh oranges and squeeze it yourself. Same with a cow. Raw milk, I would believe, would have the maximum health benefits. Now, obviously, you need to get attached to, okay, well, where's the raw milk coming from? That farmer needs to make sure that cow has access. It's out on pasture. It's not just being fed, GMO corn as its feed. It needs to go out and forage like God created it to do, and preferably on an organic certified pasture with plenty of green grass that's nutrient dense.
Right now, you're still in the stage of your company where it is, founder led. You're here. You're the one calling the shot still. I think a lot of people in kind of big food get concerned, or a lot of people get concerned about big food kind of losing their principles, maybe when the founder departs from the company or moves on to other things. Like, how are you trying to set things up proactively to keep the company true to kind of being a good actor and not just getting so big that they end up kind of falling for whatever everyone else falls for, which leads to compromising products and things like that?
Yeah, right in our mission statement is our dedication to producing the highest quality organic fruit and juice and educating consumers about the benefits of an organic, consumers and farmers about the benefits of an organic lifestyle. So from right out of the gate, if we're going to change it, we'd have to change our mission statement because that's what we're dedicated to. And organic is in my name. So it's not going to be Uncle Matt's, non-GMO. It's Uncle Matt's organic. And for a reason, because we believe wholeheartedly that's a better way to farm. So that's how we're dedicated to it. And if for some reason I'm no longer with the company, I hope that mission statement would live on. And that's the root of everything we do and our purpose on a daily basis. And again, if you listen to the customer, they're telling us that that's what they want as well. They keep buying our products. We keep growing, way outperforming the average conventional category of orange juice with Simply and Tropicana. We're really the only bright story in that category for the last decade. And I say that very humbly. And I'm very thankful and grateful for the people that continue to buy our product and spread the word about us. We have a very tiny marketing budget. My wife runs marketing, and she's always like, honey, if only the budget was bigger on marketing. I'm like, yeah, I agree with you. We're not a company that's rolling in lots of profits, but we're very frugal with the money that we have. So we're not going to go out there and buy a Super Bowl ad. That's definitely not us. We're going to put it, the marketing you'll see is on social media and in store. We're going to put it into save $1 when you buy, for the next 2 weeks on promotion. That's the most bang for the buck we can get as a small company.
About regenerative agriculture, I think a lot of people are very excited about it for a lot of reasons. And a lot of people will say things like it doesn't have won't meet the quantity of needs of the country, the planet. not just for fruit, obviously, but for kind of the whole ecosystem of food production. Is that true? Like, do we need to continue to be kind of as irresponsible as we are to produce enough food? How do you see kind of the broader, it's a big question, but the broader like feasibility of going X percentage regenerative across the whole system, at least in the US, let's say?
Yeah, I mean, I've been doing organic for 25 years. And so for 25 years, the main criticism always is, you'll never feed the planet, right? You turn organic, there's not enough compost. There's not enough, waste. There's no waste, my God, the production, the yields aren't near as great. We're all starved to death. And there's several arguments against that, right? I mean, first off, you're not going to just snap your fingers and change, millions of acres, right? So everything comes with a transition period. I think it would be ludicrous and crazy to just say, hey, next year the government's going to come in and say, from now on, you have to all be organic farmers or regenerative ag farmers. That would be a disaster because one, you wouldn't have the resources, you wouldn't have the farmer knowledge, and crops would fail and fail miserably. You need to have a goal like, okay, in 10 years, 20 years, 30 years, what percentage do we want to try and transition, right? So farmers have the knowledge. If you can change the land grant universities and the funding starts going to regenerative agriculture and the consumer starts voting with their dollar, hey, I want more of that, then the large chemical companies will start supplying more organic regenerative items. And they will start funding more research at the land grant universities. And that will have a seismic shift. Organic is, the most we've penetrated in that supermarket in any single category is probably is salads, lettuce. And I think that's 11 or 12%, maybe even high as 15% now. Regenerative has a chance to be greater because it's not organic. They can still use some pesticides and chemicals in regenerative ag. So it's not as fully environmentally as friendly as organic. But if that gets people in the door to start at least saying, hey, we can do this piece, and then eventually, my gold standard would be regenerative organic. And so that's what we hope for. So no different than when non-GMO first started coming out. People were like, oh my gosh, it's going to harm organic. And you just said, well, let's look on the flip side. If you can at least start educating people about GMOs, and then they know that, hey, if I'll start with that first and say, okay, I don't want GMOs in my life anymore. So I'll look for something that's either organic certified because they don't allow it, or I'll look for the non-GMO seal. And then it's up to us to compel them with, hey, why would you go further? Why would you take the next step? If you think GMOs are bad, guess what about pesticides? Look at glyphosate. Look at some of these other things. Now you need to go to organic certification because non-GMO, I laugh because simply, and some of them will put, non-GMO on their orange juice. Well, there isn't any commercially viable produced GMO citrus. So no kidding, it's non-GMO. It's non-GMO by default. But they can still go out and spray.
It's like the gluten-free snacks as well that are just like gluten-free orange juice. It's like, okay, congrats.
I mean, why not put cage-free on your orange juice too? Squeeze too mangoes. So some of those things are laughable from a marketing standpoint, and they do clutter the mind of the consumer, so they get confused, right? So part of like the industry organization, the Organic Trade Association, we've been members for 20 plus years, and they go out and try and promote and protect organic, and they do things to help, continue to talk about the value and the benefits of organic and why you should go out as a customer and demand it. And I tell people, start small. Go in and just buy, a couple things. Buy organic apples and replace, your typical organic apple. Just go in the produce set and start buying some organic produce and swap. And then, hopefully you'll come down to the orange juice case and buy some organic OJ as well. But every little bit helps the industry gain momentum, gain traction. And those grocery stores, they look for things that are growing the category. And organic is one of those things that continues to grow the category. So that's my organic pitch.
I think this will be my final question here. I sometimes frame this as like an idea segment, just a more open-ended conversation. Let's say you have the luxury, you've cracked the code and there's several clones of you running around. You're not as committed to the one thing that you're committed to and you've got more time and space to try new things. It could be CPG, it could be anything in the world. What is another kind of exciting opportunity in the business world, in the upstart world? Could be capital intensive, could be more scrappy, that you think is a fun, exciting opportunity?
Yeah, so we actually have done some parallel stuff already. I've invested in a variety of other companies. And one of them is upcycled and taken the waste from the citrus peel, which is pretty amazing. There's, we kind of joke, there's power in that peel. There's a lot of different things in there, fiber for sure, but also antioxidants. And so taking that and turning it into a food product, we remove all of the oils. We remove a lot of the just stringent products from that peel. And so then from there, it becomes like a little flour product, and you can put it in and add it to beverages. You can add it to gluten-free snacks. And the amazing thing about that orange peel is it holds water. It's hygroscopic. So it replaces gums. So your typical like guar gum or some of those xanthan, all of those things, you can substitute citrus fiber with, which is pretty neat. So, and you get the antioxidants, you get some nice fiber, and it's the good kind of fiber. So it's a prebiotic fiber that your gut likes, and it makes bifidobacteria and some of the other good things that help with your immune system. So that one's been pretty fun as a parallel, but not too far out of the norm. You know, we always threw away the peel, and so now to be part of a company's called Citrus Extracts, that is taking that peel waste and turning it into something really valuable is pretty amazing. And there's also some good stuff that it can be done in the ag world as well, that we're playing around with, the seed treatments and things like that that really help get the seed started sooner.
Amazing. That's I'm gonna start looking out for xanthan gum being replaced on my labels with citrus gum.
Yeah, you'll see. It'll just say citrus fiber. It'll just say citrus fiber in the ingredient statement, and that's kind of what you'll see. Pretty fun project. Pretty good opportunity to take a waste and turn it into something much greater.
Well, Matt, thank you so much for taking the time, coming on, doing, I think, to the kind of previous question we were discussing about GMO and organic and all these things. I think kind of in general, we can agree that like an increased health consciousness tends to increase health consciousness in other areas. So I think it's probably massive, the impact that it's had in the measurable ways and the immeasurable ways, just making something come to the forefront of the shelf. So thanks for what you do. Thanks for coming on the show. You're everywhere. I imagine we've discussed all the things at the beginning where people can try this. I don't know if you're online personally or if you're doing additional talks or resources, but if there is a call to action besides to go out and try the product, now would be a good time to share it.
Well, the easiest thing for us is just go to unclemats.com, and on there's a product locator tab. So click on that, put in your zip code, and it'll tell you exactly which stores have what products of ours in your local neighborhood. And if that doesn't work, you can always just order us direct, and we'll send it to you anywhere in the continental U.S.
Amazing. Well, thank you so much, Matt. It's been a pleasure.
Appreciate it. Thank you so much, Lewis. Have a great day.